Set. 4, 3, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday Morning Quarterback. Today we are three pastors who love ministry, leadership, and sports. John, how is the weather down there in Virginia?
It's pouring down rain, but NBA playoffs are on, so there's always a good place to keep up with the good sports until we hit that terrible season of just baseball.
Yes, man, the playoffs have been good. Dad, what's going on down there in Nashville?
Hey, sorry, John. We got blue skies. It is 85 degrees, and all is well here.
Man, I tell you, this weather has been something. But, man, this is one of my favorite times. You know, I don't know about you guys, but there's no sport like just the NBA this season. I just couldn't get into it. And I was like, I don't know what it is. It's the load management. But, man, the playoffs have just reminded me, like, some of the best. And it's crazy, the difference between the NBA regular season and then the NFL, and how the NFL creates the urgency throughout their games. That's the difference, I think, between the NFL and all the other leagues. But let's jump into it, man. The playoffs have been wild. I know we've been off for a minute since March Madness, and so we're kind of seeing the pieces set as we get to enter into the semifinals. But kind of the theme, and sometimes our sports overarching theme, ties to our ministry theme. And so today, fellas, let's talk about changing of the guard. That was the talk all last week in the NBA. And inside of that, we can talk about a bunch of these young thoroughbreds. But, Dad, let's just start over your overall reaction of the playoffs. We had game one of Denver and Minnesota, and then we got Dallas series that's going to be starting this week. And we got all these young thoroughbreds in the NBA. But what has caught your eye and been what maybe the most surprising?
Man, I got to say Ant-Man has been absolutely surprising. And I know everybody's talking about him, and it is justified. And I got to tell you, I am as big of a Michael Jordan fan as there is out there. And so anytime there's any comparison, I'm always giving that third eye. But I got to tell you, man, there are a lot of comparisons. Athletic ability, that mid-range jump shot, that turnaround. I mean, silky smooth, so good. And, you know, the big thing is not just the game, but the mind. At 22, he's willing his team to win. He's doing what needs to happen to win. And he's not afraid of anybody. And so there is a thorough confidence in him, and it is definitely bled throughout his team. But I will say one other thing. He does have some good vets, and you can see them pouring into him. And so he's very teachable as well. So, I mean, I think that's what's at the forefront of this NBA playoffs thus far.
John?
I'd agree with that. I think I just add in addition to that, waiting for the defensive end to elevate to the level Jordan does. Obviously, the competitive will and desire seems to be refining, taking shape over time. So that's been incredible. Honestly, I think how quiet people have been about the Celtics. I think this is the year for the Celtics. I think they're playing great basketball, way better. Sure, people are looking at the Nuggets. They're looking at some other teams, and they're starting to see the Knicks emerge a little bit. But I think the Celtics are going to pull it out this year. And I think due in large part because they're finally gelling as a team in a real way. And I think it's been interesting to watch them quietly walk their way through the playoffs, and almost no one is saying anything about it. People are focused on Ant-Man. People are focused on the Nuggets, a lot of attention. And I think they're content to fly under the radar, maybe for the first time in a very long time, not having to build up to expectations. But it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, you know, the East is probably the weakest it's ever been, at least for star power sake. And so I think they've got a pathway to the finals. And if they play their cards right, they can rest a little bit. But, man, over on the other side of the West, I don't know what y'all's thoughts are, but one of the things that jumps out, which we'll talk about the matchups here in a minute, but one of the things, though, that Ant-Man, I think he's similar to Michael when he attacks and he's coming downhill. I mean, he's super fast, and his mid-range game is great. And I think everybody's surprised because you saw such a jump. Like quarterbacks, you know, you like, okay, potential, and then boom, just out of nowhere, like a Patrick Mahomes jump or something. And he said in his last interview, he was like, I really put work in this summer. And he was doing a USA Basketball, And so that was the tell of like, okay, he got in there and he worked on his jump shot and his handle, man. I mean, he's got some moves on the 3-point line. So he's got bits and pieces of like a little bit of everybody because he's so long. And I'll be honest, man, Carl Towns played a lot better than I thought. He's kind of got the rap of being soft and, the second half, they were like, hey, the supporting cast has to step up. Man, Mike Conley was dropping threes from all over the place. So I think the question is, Denver, all these teams, the Lakers would come out roaring, and then Denver would just let everything settle, and then they'd flex their muscle. Because, we know that Murray's not going to keep having bad games as he kind of recovers. Michael Porter Jr., man, he's a great shooter. I mean, he gives you a solid 22 a game. And, man, Joker, I mean, he is just so darn dominant. It's just impressive to watch. So how do y'all think that series specifically is going to shake out, Dad?
Well, I think this next game is going to tell. So if Denver squeaks by, I think it's going to be a difficult series for them because I think you're going to get their best game. They cannot go down 0-2. They've already lost the first one. And so if they come out and win by 20, I think it's going to be a good long series. But if they just barely squeak by or even lose, if they lose, they are in big trouble. They don't have the bench that they had last year. They got some injuries. Their Robin is not doing well right now. So they need to be on all cylinders to go against this young upstart team. And really, Conley as the point guard, he's been around. And so they've got the bigs. They've got a great general in Conley. And then you got, this new budding superstar. And so they're coming together at the right time. So Denver, they better be ready. And so if they come out slow like they typically do, and Minnesota jumps on them, they could be in a world of hurt.
John, who you got winning this series?
Yeah, I think the Nuggets take it, and let me share why. Because I don't think Towns is going to come out every night and play extremely well. I don't even think some of the veterans or the role players are going to be able to support. I think Ant-Man's going to go off 35, 40 points a night. That's not going to be enough to win the game. I think he's going to have a lot of competitive edge. A lot of people are making the comparison between them and the Dallas Mavericks when Dirk and them ran Miami out of the building. I don't think they're quite there. I don't think the team is quite as filled out and accomplished. And I do think the Nuggets have one of the harder teams on a matchup side, both offense and defense, to really have to go against for that many games. And so I think they're going to pull it out 4-2. I think it's going to be a bit of a wave the next two games. They might drop another one, but I think the Joker is going to help manage the game more effectively moving forward.
Yep, I agree. I think a best case scenario would be Minnesota takes it to 7, but man, I just can't see. You can bank on Joker and Porter Jr. a lot more than you can Carl Towns. Now he's got a shot. It's like, all right, you want to prove it. You want to show that because I think his contract's up, and there's a chance they could, move him or do something with him. And so we'll see how consistent they can be. Because can they?
Hey, let me just push back a little bit on one thing with Towns.
All right.
I think now that he's not the number one.
Yeah.
And he's the number 2. I think that has taken a lot of pressure off of him. So now there's a little bit more freedom, and you play much better when you have some freedom. And so I think that's going to be key. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting.
They also were pointing out, Denver doesn't have a lot of size, and they do with Gobert and with all these long guys. And man, that guy off the bench,
they got 3 of them. They got 3 of them.
The 6th man, I think he's from LSU. I can't remember his name. He was tearing it up. So that'll be an interesting thing, the matchups. And then obviously over on the other side of the West, you've got Shea tearing it up. And so I want to see, which I like it. It's fresh. And let me also say this. I think this young generation, we talked about changing of the guard. I feel like I like the Euro ball style a lot better than ISO ball, which somebody said, and we kind of shift gears here. So the whole talk has been, the passing of the baton, and I feel like the end of the Big Three era is kind of ceased. And, look at Phoenix. It just doesn't work. You can't just plop 3 superstars, not enough shots. Now people are looking for more two-way players or specialty. And so I enjoy this brand of basketball. Even Minnesota, moving the ball around, having a good point guard. I think it's a more enjoyable game to watch. And so that's interesting too. So I want to see some of these, can Oklahoma City, are they as good as their record is? And can they continue to move on. Hey, let's talk though. What do you guys think, John? What are your thoughts on, Steph Curry didn't make the playoffs, LeBron's bounce, Durant's taking a step back? What are some just bigger implications of just this new change in era, and how do you think all that, lands?
Yeah, I think it's both interesting to watch it unfold. You're also watching some superstars wrestling with letting go of the limelight, and they're making statements. Just one by LeBron James in particular, where he said, "We're just talking about basketball." Like I think that statement, press conference, I get you're upset. I know you lost. That's going to haunt you because, yeah, sure, it's just about basketball, but honestly, that's your whole life. That's what provides millions and influence, and it's just basketball now because you've already ascended all these other things. And I think you're looking at a guy that's probably wrestling with letting go of greatness, realizing that his time is slowly matriculating down. And how do I really kind of help encourage the game forward? And in my mind, you think of people that obviously have to do that. Russell Jordan, we watched Jordan wrestle through that with the young team, trying to invest in them, maybe even controlling too much. And so people wrestle with that different ways. What I do like, I think within that kind of scope is you always wonder with the ascension of particular superstars, how will anyone ever replace a LeBron James, a Steph Curry, and other stuff? And what you're starting to see is, Joe gets right there. He's playing extremely well. Nobody saw that coming 4 or 5 years ago. You got Ant-Man that's ascending. You're looking around. You're like, wait a second. I think we're going to be fine. And I think it's probably going to would be helpful moving forward as the NBA is, I think, looking to adjust to make more allowance on defense to better control the game because it's a little bit of offensively out of hand now. I think that's going to ascend some superstars that don't score well on one end, but play extremely great defense, who used to be known for defense, but over the last 5 or 6 years, defense has been pretty non-existent.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something else, John, while you were talking, I was thinking about, and I actually think this is a good thing. If you look at a lot of the young superstars, they were talking about how Ant Edwards can be the face of the NBA because a lot of the younger stars, they're not that big personality. You think about Jalen Brunson, who's another one. He's real low-key guy. If you think about, what's his name at Boston from Duke, he's real low-key. Jokic doesn't really care about the limelight. Shea's real kind of laid back. And so I actually think that could create a more stability. These guys that stay, and then instead of wanting to jump ship to, a major market. And Dad, what are your thoughts on the changing of the guard?
Well, number one, I think it's going to be interesting to see what like Durant and LeBron and Steph, what do they do? They're kind of stuck with their teams right now. And so are they just going to play the next 2-3 years, slowly deteriorate before our eyes, or are they going to, go ahead and leave the game, or force their hand and make all these moves and all this talk on social media and all that to force their hand once again? So it's interesting because I think that they're kind of stuck. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with them. But I also think it's interesting how, in reality, there's more of a pull for more stars because you've got more European players coming. And if you really think about it, a lot of the European players are the stars. And so now more than ever, the pool is bigger for bigger talent. So I think you're right, Joseph. The bombastic personality may not be what it once was, but I think you're right because I think you will have a lot more stars and a lot more locations that will bring a better playoff scenario. And I think that's what you're starting to see right now. So when you're a star and you can bring it on the court, I think that's good enough to be what the NBA needs. You don't have to have these massive personalities to make all this draw. We want to see good basketball. We want to see good teams, and we want to see good playoffs.
Hey, real quick, one series we didn't touch, and just I'm gonna popcorn it around. Winner, you got who y'all taking between Dallas and Oklahoma City? Which I'll go first. I'm gonna take Dallas, and I love both of these options. The Western Conference Finals, you got Luka in the Euro versus Jokic. If Denver, that'd be a great matchup because they're friends, similar style. But I would also love Luka and Ant-Man, or Kyrie, Luka, Ant-Man. I mean, that'd be pretty appealing to you. So real quick, who you got win? So I got Dallas. Dad, you got Dallas or OKC?
I got Dallas, and I got Dallas because we're starting to see the maturation process with Irving unfold before our eyes, at least on the basketball court. I don't know what he does, personally, but on the basketball court, it seems like he's really matured. He's kind of just keeping low key, playing good ball, trying to facilitate and score, depending on how the game goes and what he needs.
Played defense, both of him and
Play
Luka playing defense.
Yeah, I heard that right now. That's the most important thing for him, is to play good, hard defense. And hearing that from him is a big deal. So,
John, are you
I
Dallas
think they
too?
can go far. What's that?
John, are you Dallas too?
I'm actually going to kick it over to OKC, and I think it's 7. Only because I think if I've watched Kyrie Irving enough, sometimes in games he disappears.
Yeah.
And, it's not the flat earth conversation. It's not any of those things I'm concerned about. It's that he will just disappear. He'll ghost out, which is what he did with LeBron, and that caused a rift. And so I think, honestly, with OKC, I think there's too many options. With Dallas, you have 2 main players that you can kind of control, manipulate. Yep. I think OKC kind of builds into the mold of the Nuggets, and they have too many options. So you go, hey, if you slow these 2 guys down, that's fine. We have a 3rd and a 4th option that can fill it up on any given night, which I think presses the game to 7. So I think they can win it in 7.
Both fun series. Hey, and one more thing too. Talking about this style of play, I feel like the Euroball and all these young guys have brought the mid-range game back. Because there for a while, it was like 3 layup. Where you look at Ant Edwards, he's a lot of mid-range. Luka's got the fall away. Jokic, Tatum, they've all got that mid-range game, which adds a layer of just spontaneity, and it's a more appealing game. All right, let's do this on the fly. We're going to play a little NBA GM. So I'm going to pass it around for you. You can keep it short. And I want you to say, blow it up, keep it, or move. And I'm going to poll y'all, okay? Ask you some questions. All right, Dad. You're the GM. Keep it short now. What do you do if you are Milwaukee Bucks? You keep it, you blow it up.
Oh, you keep it. Yeah, you keep it.
All right.
Keep your 2 or 3, and then look around and bring a couple, B-level stars. I think you'd be fine.
All right, John, Golden State Warriors. Keep or blow up?
You blow it up. You blow it up because we look around and we say Klay Thompson can't shoot 40 shots a night and make 10. It's time to move on. He's done a great job, but it's time to move on. And Steph needs a little bit more help if you're going to have another playoff run.
Yep. Can they adapt? That's the question. Okay, so I would say Lakers, keep it or blow it up. I'd blow it up because you're just doing the same cycle over and over. And I don't think, as smart as LeBron is, for whatever reason, he's not going to be able to adapt and go young. And that's just going to be hard for them. Which, side note, one young guy that we have not talked about is it just hit me. All right, Dad, here you go. Keep it or blow it up in Philadelphia, Maxey and Embiid.
I'd keep it. I'd keep the 2. They need a 3rd star. Tobias Harris is not that 3rd star, so they need somebody else.
Hey, and Maxey, he took his game up in that series. So and then the Knicks. So yeah, those would be our NBA GM spots. Oh, all right, last one, John. Phoenix, keep it or blow it up?
I think it's already blown up. I don't think you have to do anything. I think we're looking around and we're going, hey, Booker is not the point guard we need.
Yeah.
And Durant he might be high on the court. Like, he doesn't look like he even wants to play anymore. So it's already blown up. It's just, what do we do with the pieces that are fragmented? Because we can no longer get anything out of this.
Yeah.
In some ways. And so I think they're on the decline for the next 3 or 4 years. They've sunk a lot of money in draft picks into those guys, and there's not a lot of return on that.
Contractually too, I think they're kind of they're not locked in.
Yeah.
But I mean, now you're hearing that Booker might want to go, and so all right, Dad, take a guess on this one. Where do you think Kevin Durant plays next year?
Phoenix.
Yeah,
I don't think he can afford to force a hand again. I mean,
who's going to want to force their hand? The thing he liked about Brooklyn, they had to give up to get him. The thing he liked about Phoenix, they had to get up to get him. So that's the adapting, guys. When are you going to learn? You can't keep doing this.
But here's the thing. Now, I don't think that as many teams would want him. So it's not just forcing your hand that he's got to be careful of, but he's actually got to find the team who would want him.
Yep.
That's going to be tough.
Last one, Dad, for you. Clippers. Keep it or blow it up?
Okay, my GM says you keep it, and this is why. The only reason is because they're going to a new stadium,
arena.
and you need stars. So go ahead and keep it one more year.
Bell tickets is about
Blow that
making money.
puppy up.
It's a business at the end of the day.
Hey, John, here's what you do, John. You sell them the Dallas Cowboy hope. The Dallas Cowboy hope. This year, they're going to come together. Kawhi's not getting hurt. We're taking it. We're going all the way.
That's
Well, if you
funny.
put some humongous screens in that stadium and you get basketball players trying to punt a basketball up there to hit it, then at least you'll have entertainment.
Yeah. Yep.
Just sell that Dallas Cowboy hope. People buy it. They'll drink that Kool-Aid.
America's
That's
hope.
funny. All right. Hey, let's shift gears to ministry and leadership. And so we've talked about changing of the guard. And this is an interesting topic that's going around in churches right now, not just at the senior pastor level, but at every level. We're seeing a pastor crisis greater than we've ever seen. Basically, we don't have enough younger pastors to fill a variety of these spots: worship pastor, lead pastor, discipleship pastor. And the amount of churches that are out there with either openings or need for spots, and we just don't have enough people coming up behind them. And I don't say any of this to demean Generation X or some of the boomers, but the old school Southern Baptist way was, hey man, this is my pulpit. I don't let any other guys come up and preach. And this is another fascinating topic, and no knock to shade to these guys, that you're seeing some of these pastors of predominantly larger churches, 10,000 plus, that are getting in their 70s and even 80s, and close to 90s. I mean, look at Swindoll and Ed Young Sr., who are still preaching well, still having fruitful ministries. But my mind takes me to Charles Stanley. You have these big giants of the faith. And the question is, are they training up somebody to take the batons? And Dad, we saw firsthand with Adrian Rogers down there in Memphis at Bellevue, and he had his successor picked, but it was a hard transition because these people are so used to the church. I don't think the guys mean to do it, but it's so built around the personality. And then there's just no way where the next guy can come and fill these shoes. And so I actually had been listening to a podcast on succession from Eric Geiger, and they were talking about how they did it out in California at Mariners. But he was saying more so, a lot of times we only think about it in terms of senior pastor, but he was saying succession needs to be a part of your culture at every level, whether it's your social media person at your church or your Sunday school teacher or your small group leader. We should always be training the next man up. And we should be, you're seeing a movement now. I think specifically, John, through ministry residencies and internships where you're building a structure where young people with a heart for the Lord and heart for ministry can come and learn and cut their teeth at a young age and learn the culture of the church, so that when the church needs a youth pastor or a college pastor or whatever, they're not having to go outside because they've already started a harvest system where they kind of like, baseball, you got the next guy up. So I want to talk a little bit about the changing of the guard. How can we, as the next generation of churches, maybe shift our thinking a little bit to not get stuck in some of these precarious situations? And I don't know, it's a wide topic, but what comes to mind, John, when you hear this?
Yeah, well, I think, you got the opportunity to think through ministry as it's taking shape. I think you were right with the last generation. You see a lot of ministry built around personalities. You got Falwell build a ministry around his personality, his beliefs, and kind of kept that ministry going almost single-handedly at sometimes, and not allowing maybe other people to jump up into that role. And we could list the other ones. I think with the coming generation, and including myself, is my role, my ministry position, those things don't fulfill all of my identity, nor do I want to be the center of everything. I think that's hard for the church to embrace. I think church loves big personalities. I think leadership always enjoys a bigger, larger than life personality, where they're centered in on one particular person that'll draw people together. But I think as we move forward, you got to look at opportunities to say, I can't wait until I feel like I'm ready to take my hand off the wheel, because it's too late to raise somebody up, because I'm already halfway maybe exiting in my mind. But I need to integrate that into my life, both through opportunities of co-leadership, but also to shine the light on other guys and really take a decreased attempt to take our own spots. And I think that's at every level. I think the more you have the opportunity to shed responsibilities and sit in the pews and watch other people lead, the healthier church is going to be, the healthier you're going to be. And I think as you move forward, it gives a better expression to the church that's not centered on one person. But I'm not even the oldest or the youngest on this thing, so y'all probably have some wisdom here to add to that.
Yeah, that's good, Dad. Where's your thoughts take you?
Well, I think this can happen at every level. I think a lot of times when you're a smaller church, you think, well, we're just barely getting it done, and but you have to be spiritually sensitive and listen to people, because I think more and more folks, they don't really have an understanding, especially if you're younger, of what a called ministry is. And so sometimes they need to be helped flushing that out. And so we have to be watching and listening and seeing, and then utilize people, spend time with them, pour into them, give them opportunities, search for opportunities, and even don't be afraid to put them up in the pulpit. That is huge. And what you'll find is that their giftings are different than your giftings, and the church needs different approaches, even in ministry and teaching and giftings, all of it. And so when I see that, I really try to utilize their giftings, and I know I have certain strengths, and what you'll find out is they have certain strengths, and together it just strengthens the church. And so I think that's important, is to, and I hate the term where you give up your pulpit, because it's not your pulpit anyways, but understand that God is placing people within our own churches. And so it's a privilege and a responsibility to take these young guys and help them understand, their calling. And then one last thing I think is important is, I think that what I have seen through the years is, if they see somebody coming up through the church, if it's not to what their image of what a pastor should be, then they kind of either look the other way, or they don't, pour into them like what the image that they think is. And so I think it's important to take where they're at, and even if there are certain strengths that you don't think are viable, pour into them anyways. And so through the years, I think it's hurt us, because there's a certain image that we place on a pastor, and if it's not fulfilled or got 100%, that jock in school, that's the guy. But this guy over here that's not really a jock, or that's not really cool, then we don't pay them any mind. I think that's what happens a lot of times within the church, or even the bigger churches. We don't see what's right in front of us, because we have a certain image that we built what a great and good pastor looks like.
One thing that really started, and I'll take us into the weeds a little bit here, a little bit more micro. One of the things that got me really evaluating this at every level, I was on the podcast, they were talking about, if you had a tragic accident, say you're a senior pastor or a worship pastor or a college pastor or whatever, youth, and say something happened, you tragically died, or had to be out for 6 months, etc. Would your church or ministry, did they have a emergency response plan, and would they be equipped enough to carry on that work of the ministry? And that was very sobering, even from a student pastor, college pastor, media guy, whoever. And because the reality is, some of us, I think in ministry, when you're younger, you lament, oh, I can't go away because it'll fall apart. And you do that to try to help build yourself up. And then you get a little wisdom. You're like, whoa, I got to train some people so that I can go on vacation and not everything fall apart. And, you start taking more joy in seeing other people succeed rather than yourself. But one of the things, I think a lot of leaders lead in such a way where it's all around them. And I'll even take a step further. If you're a lead pastor and you're preaching, have you trained up, John, your elders or your deacons to hold down the doctrinal, fabric of the church? Some of our churches are so based on our thinking, and we set the spiritual doctrinal tone. But have we prepared them in a way where they can carry that? Hey, this is our theological position on, pick your poison on the different things. And so that was something for me, even at a grassroots level, of some of the, smaller ministries that I have a hand in. If we're gone tomorrow, I didn't have my people trained up enough where they could keep it going. It was too dependent on myself. And so that was something that was very eye-opening, I think, from a big picture thought. John, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's necessary, especially if you have elders ready to kind of lay elders, paid elders, the whole gamut there. They have to get opportunities in the pulpit. In fact, this week I'm not preaching. One of the lay elders is jumping in there to preach. He does so probably twice a year and has so every year since I've been here. He's growing in his ability to handle the word. People are coming to him as a teacher and not just a guy that's in the crowd. But we're reading theology books. We're writing papers, and in those papers, we're not just trying to form some of that theology. We're also trying to read those papers, have conversations over them, kind of draw some lines of where we are as a church. Because I know some of these guys aren't going to disappear off to seminary for 5 or 6 years and then come back and say, okay, I got a good basis. So how does the local church actually begin to raise up and to equip its members, both pay and lay guys, to be able to come and lead the church and be ready? I know for sure if I die, we have 14 elders, then they already know what we're preaching through the rest of the year. They already have an expectation of how the meetings typically go. They have bandwidth. They've already preached many times in the pulpit. They have an expectation of what to look for in a pastor. They even have a life insurance policy the church will get in response to my death. I mean, they're prepared for me to die, in some ways concerningly prepared for me to die. But at the same time, I think that's got to be your activity. If you come in, you think I think we plan in 10-year increments, and I think that's good. But we also plan in 6-month increments, that if I were gone today, what would this look like? And I think it's healthy to have a long range and a short range emergency and static kind of planning, so that whoever fills that role can both go, hey, I'm free to do this the way God's led me and designed me to be, but I know it needs to be done. And here's how I've seen it done well. And honestly, in our conversation, Joe did that for me. I was 26. I didn't know what I was doing. He gave me opportunities he probably shouldn't have given a guy my age and my bandwidth. But I look back at that, and that's honestly, in a lot of ways, I've been able to see other guys raised up in that role, because I see it affected my life and it impacted my life in such a way that I go, I want other people to have this opportunity.
That's good. And, John, going with what you said, I would say it's irresponsible if we don't have those things thought through. And I wouldn't say it's being a good shepherd of the influence and leadership that the Lord's given us. We just take it for granted. Last thing, John, what you were saying about that, one thing that I am passionate about, and I think pastors need to do more proactively and intentionally, is look for next generation pastors. Now, there's a lot of discussion on, 20 years from now, is bivocational going to be up, and is it going to, and maybe so, and if so, we'll adapt with it. But one of my favorite things to do is to find a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, and who I believe have some ability, leadership ability, ministry ability. You can see it very early. And just speaking the possibility, doing two things. One, telling them, hey, you're being told you can be a this or a that or a that, but I also want you to know, like, you can go and devote your life to studying the Bible, to serving the church. This is a viable option that you can do. And then the second part, John, what you're talking about, is speaking that into them at a young age. And typically I try to give their parents a little heads up, but like, hey, I just want you to know, I think your kid has the ability to be a pastor one day. I can see it clear as day. And some of the best examples come from when somebody speaks in, very clearly. John was teaching a second grade, John?
Yep.
Second grade at a local school, and it just, bam, it was like a little flicker, and then it just went, whew, and Dad spoke it into him a little bit, and then the Lord took it and ran with it. And so I think we need to do more of that. And my thinking is, because for a while I went into, well, are they called, are they not? It ain't up to us. I just say cast a wide net and the Lord will weed them out. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, hey, if you're not called, you know, John, I remember in our college days, everybody, well, I want to be in ministry if I can go to X church. And it's like, okay, well, what if the Lord wants you to be at this church? Well, I don't, and it's more appealing. And it's like, okay, you're not really called. You're just called to one place. And so I say cast a what? Go ahead.
That's what I say, and the word affirms that, right? Like it's a good thing to aspire to the office of elder. So when you're looking at that, or overseer, however your translation breaks that down, I think that's a good thing to have aspirations of that, whether you get that fulfilled or not, right? That's not the end goal. It's that you're leading in such a way that other men would aspire to that role, and not to be you, but to shepherd the flock. And I think, like, you have a ministry path, right? Joseph, 6 years old, wearing a full suit, ready to go preach at his first church, right? Like I have a different ministry path, 26, just kind of stumbled backwards into ministry. And I think the beauty of that is somewhere along the way, we saw someone who was pastoring well. And we thought, man, could I aspire to that kind of faithfulness within the church? And I think, as time progresses, you and I, when we take the time to invest in that generation, are going to look at your life, right? They're going to do as God's word says, like evaluate your life of faithfulness and see what the contents of your faith is actually proving. And the ones that are doing it well, not just on the stage, but off in disciple making relationships, I think are going to continue to produce other leaders who are able to lead. And you see churches doing that. And I think the more those churches do that, the more people are drawn to that pipeline to get plugged in.
Yep. And another thing that's another shift too is it doesn't just relate to younger people. I mean, we have a person who's been everything at our church, chairman of the deacons, chairman of the personnel, a trustee, and he's 48. And I jokingly told him 5 years ago, I said, hey man, you missed your calling, should have been, in ministry. And he just kind of chuckled. Well, he's stepping onto our staff now. And it's a position that we wouldn't have been able to hire from the outside. We needed somebody who knows the day-to-day and knows the philosophy and bleeds our same blood and understands that. And how awesome is it for people later in their life, past their, college days or whatever, being able to step into the Lord's work. And so I think the template has been shattered. And I'll say this too, John, I don't even think it's just in terms of elders. I think that like for a lot of times we would just hire pastors for every position that don't do certain things well, administration being one. And you're seeing churches now create space for females that maybe have gifting at female discipleship or local outreach or missions heartbeat or take your pick. And so the mold of this typical pastor, youth pastor, children's worship, and that whole mold's changing. And I'll end on this. And my dad and I have talked about this because our ministry context is different. But for any church that has the ability to create some type of residency or internship program that has enough ministries to need it, is totally worth doing it. And I would go all in, not just to summer interns. I think summer internship, you can dip your toe in. But then if you find the right people that, they're local, they live in your city and they're going to college and they just want somewhere to cut their teeth. And we've even talked about sometimes it's having them create ministry. Even if it's saying, hey, I'm going to pay you $100 a week, or I'm going to give you a free place to stay. And I don't want you to come on campus. I want you to go to pick one school and twice a week, just go build relationships on behalf of the church. And that has been so fruitful for our church. Everyone that we've ever brought in has been a home run. We would have considered hiring in some capacity. And it did another thing. It breathed life into the church. It brought energy. And I think that talking about adapting, that this is a way churches are having to adapt of like, okay, we need more help, but we don't always have the funds. And so this is something where I think you're starting to see churches adapting to it. So, Dad, any final thoughts to take us out?
Yeah, I just think when you do it from within, it does breathe life. There's a sense of pride when you see somebody that came to church as a junior youth and now, they've stepped into the role of a pastor, associate pastor. We've had that at our church. He grew up there, started working with the youth, then took over the youth, then became a youth pastor. Now he's our executive pastor and he's a great preacher. And so there is a sense of pride and excitement. And it does breathe life into the church when you see one of your own from the inside now become a champion for the Lord. There's nothing better than that.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, we'll be back soon with NBA playoffs catching up. Fellas, have a great day, and we will see y'all later.